It is important to understand the nature of British sheep breeding and its stratified structure today and how this compared with the 19th and early 20th centuries, and how the consumer has affected this. The way I see this structure is different from some in that the layers, in my opinion, are not solely determined by the locations of hill, upland and lowland. This stratified structure has three tiers. At the top tier are purebred hill sheep. I add to this tier other purebred sheep that are reared for ability to cope with specific environment or conditions, in the case of Lincolnshire, unreclaimed fenland and marsh. This is where I believe the Lincoln Longwool sat in the structure. The breed is very free from foot rot and matures early. Useful attributes for fen and marsh sheep. The top tier today has a primary value to provide breeding stock in the stratified system. That does not say its meat and wool did not have value, albeit in 2022 wool is now of no value, but hopefully this will change. Stephen's Book of the Farm identifies similarities between overwintering hill sheep and marsh sheep, referring in this case to Romney Marsh in Kent. Whereas the hill sheep farmers have to contend against winter storms and the failure of the frozen pastures, the Kentish sheep breeders have to move their young sheep to higher grounds in winter owing to the flooding of their pastures, and not so much in search of better food as of sounder grazing. This top tier provided purebred breeding stock with surplus lambs sold down the chain for stores. The middle tier in the UK is upland sheep. These are still reared on lowly productive land. These can be crossbred hill breeds mated with more prolific breeding sheep. They can continue to breed in easier conditions with female lambs transferred down to the next tier. The bottom tier are lowland sheep that grow fast and nowadays in South Lincolnshire often overwinter feeding on the remains of brassica crops. This structure has been key to British sheep farming for at least 200 years, as it sees different sheep species matched to their ability to survive in different habitats and provides a market in the different tiers, and different types of farming and farmers work in line with their environments. However, there are two key effects where the consumer has had a significant effect on the market, that is consumption of wool and lamb meat. The wealth of towns like Stamford and Boston in Lincolnshire owes a lot to the consumption of wool. The importation of cotton and then the advent of man-made fibres in the 20th century saw wool decline in value to a state in 2022 where it is a waste product to many farmers. The 17th century saw a trend of British sheep meat having an increase in worth in the home market, especially as the towns and cities grew. There was a market for mutton and lamb, but as the 20th century progressed, the main UK meat market was for lamb. And worse than that, the most popular joint was the leg, and lambs only have 2 legs. As the 1970s progressed, mutton became less common in British butchers' shops and seldom if ever seen in the supermarket, with the main market for this meat being abroad. These two changes in consumption did not bode well for the Lincoln Longwool and other similar breeds that were known for their quality and quantity of wool and their ability to provide good mutton. But this, in my opinion, was not the largest threat to the breed. The key to the commercial success of the Lincoln Longwool was the fact that it was at the top tier of the strata of sheep and as such held high value as breeding stock.